Have you ever felt like God had completely forgotten you? Like no matter how much you prayed, he stayed silent. Tonight's story is about a man who reached the darkest moment of his life, only to meet a mysterious stranger who knew everything about him. Who was that stranger? And why did he disappear without leaving a single trace? Stay until the end, because the final truth may completely change the way you see God's presence in your own life. The rain poured heavily over the empty streets of Chicago. The cold wind howled through the city. Streetlights flickered in the darkness. Most people had already gone home, but one man kept walking alone. His name was Michael, 35 years old, tired, broken, hopeless. Every step felt heavier than the last, not because of the rain, but because of the weight he carried inside his heart. For months, everything in his life had fallen apart. He had lost the career he worked 15 years to build. His savings had disappeared. Bills covered every corner of his apartment. The bank kept calling. His phone never stopped ringing, but he never answered. Because he already knew what they wanted. Money he no longer had. The hardest part wasn't losing his job. It wasn't losing his house. It wasn't even losing his friends. The hardest part was losing hope. Every morning, Michael still folded his hands and prayed, "Jesus, please help me." But every night, nothing changed. Slowly, his prayers became shorter, his faith became weaker, his heart became colder. He began asking questions he never thought he would ask. "Jesus, are you even listening? If you love me, why is my life falling apart?" The silence frightened him more than the problems themselves. That rainy night, Michael wasn't looking for answers anymore. He was simply looking for a place where the pain would finally stop. He kept walking toward an old bridge, completely unaware that before the night was over, he would meet someone who would change his life forever. As Michael walked through the cold rain, memories flooded his mind. There was a time when life looked completely different. 5 years earlier, Michael had everything a man could dream of: a good job, a loving wife named Sarah, a beautiful little apartment. Every Sunday, they went to church together, they laughed, they prayed, and they believed that God had wonderful plans for their future. Life seemed perfect, or so they thought. Then one ordinary morning, everything changed. Michael's company announced massive layoffs. Hundreds of employees lost their jobs. Michael was one of them. When he packed his desk, his manager quietly said, "I'm sorry, this wasn't your fault." Michael forced a smile. "It's okay." But deep inside, his heart was breaking. He told himself, God will open another door. For weeks, he searched for work. He attended interview after interview. Every employer gave the same answer: "We'll call you." But no one ever did. Months passed. The savings slowly disappeared. Bills kept growing. The pressure at home became unbearable. Michael and Sarah started arguing over small things. Things they once laughed about now became reasons to fight. One evening, Sarah looked at him with tears in her eyes. She whispered, "I don't even recognize you anymore." Michael wanted to answer, but no words came out. He wasn't angry at Sarah. He was angry at himself. That night, Michael opened his Bible. He stared at the pages, but instead of finding peace, he found questions. "Jesus, where are you? Why do you stay silent when I need you the most?" Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. His prayers became fewer. Church became a place he no longer wanted to visit. The man who once trusted God with everything now struggled to believe that anyone was listening without realizing it. Michael wasn't just losing his job, he was losing his faith. As the rain grew heavier, Michael looked up toward the old bridge. He whispered one final prayer. "Jesus, if you're really there, give me one reason to keep walking." At that exact moment, he heard footsteps behind him. Slow, calm, steady. Someone was coming. The footsteps grew louder. 1, 2, 3. Michael slowly turned around. Standing beneath an old streetlight was an elderly man. His clothes were simple, a long brown coat, worn-out shoes, gray hair, a gentle smile. But there was something unusual about him, even in the heavy rain. He looked completely calm, almost as if the storm couldn't touch him. The old man walked closer. He looked directly into Michael's eyes. Then, in a soft voice, he asked, "Son, why are you carrying so much pain?" Michael froze. No one had spoken to him with such kindness in months. Still, he answered coldly, "You don't know me." The old man smiled. "You're right. But God does." Those 4 words hit Michael's heart harder than the rain. Michael tried to walk away, but his legs refused to move. His emotions finally exploded. He shouted, "Where is God? I've prayed every day. I've lost my job. I've lost my family. I've lost everything." Tears mixed with the rain. For the first time, Michael wasn't pretending to be strong. He cried like a child. The old man never interrupted him. He simply listened. Sometimes, the greatest act of love is simply listening. When Michael finally became quiet, the old man gently spoke. "Do you know why storms come?" Michael shook his head. The old man pointed toward a large oak tree beside the bridge. "Look at that tree. Its roots grew strongest during the hardest storms." Then he looked back at Michael. "Faith grows the same way." Michael remained silent. The stranger continued, "Sometimes God doesn't remove the storm because he's using it to make your roots stronger." Those words stayed in Michael's mind. The old man reached into his coat. He carefully pulled out a small Bible. It looked old. Its pages were worn. He opened it without hesitation. Then he softly read, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Michael closed his eyes. It had been months since he had heard God's words spoken with such peace. For the first time in a very long while, his heart felt lighter, not because his problems had disappeared, but because someone had reminded him that he wasn't carrying them alone. Then, the old man smiled once more. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small folded piece of paper. He placed it gently into Michael's hand. "Don't open this tonight," he whispered. "Open it tomorrow morning." Michael looked down at the paper, then looked back up, but something impossible had happened. The old man was gone. There were no footsteps, no sound, only the rain and an empty bridge. Michael's heart began to race. Who was that mysterious stranger? Michael stood frozen on the bridge. The folded paper was still in his trembling hand. He looked left, then right. The road was empty. There was nowhere the old man could have gone in just a few seconds. The rain continued to fall. The wind blew across the bridge, yet the stranger had completely disappeared. Michael whispered to himself, "Who was he?" His heart pounded faster. For the first time in months, he wasn't thinking about his problems. He was thinking about the mysterious man. As Michael slowly walked away from the bridge, he remembered the stranger's final words. "Don't open the paper tonight." He wanted to open it immediately. His curiosity was overwhelming. But something deep inside his heart told him, "Wait." So he carefully placed the folded paper into his jacket pocket. For reasons he couldn't explain, he trusted the stranger. Michael returned to his small apartment. The room felt cold and empty. Unpaid bills covered the table. The refrigerator was almost empty. His phone buzzed again. Another call from the bank. He looked at the screen, then silently turned the phone off. He walked toward the window. Outside, rain still covered the city. He whispered, "Jesus, if you really sent that man, please don't leave me now." It was the first sincere prayer he had spoken in months. Nothing supernatural happened. No bright light filled the room. No angel appeared. No voice came from heaven. But something inside Michael changed. The fear that had controlled him for months began to disappear. His breathing slowed. His racing thoughts became quiet. For the first time in a long time, he felt peace, not because his situation had changed, but because his heart had changed. The next morning, golden sunlight entered through the window. Michael slowly opened his eyes. Then he remembered the folded paper. His hands trembled as he reached into his jacket pocket. He carefully unfolded it. Inside, only one sentence was written: God has never stopped walking beside you. Below those words, there was a Bible verse. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. Michael stared at the paper. Tears filled his eyes. It felt as though those words had been written especially for him. Without wasting another second, Michael grabbed his coat, ran out of the apartment, and hurried back to the old bridge. He had only one question. Who was that mysterious stranger? But when he arrived, something even more unbelievable was waiting for him. Michael ran through the quiet streets as fast as he could. His heart pounded with hope. The folded note was still clutched tightly in his hand. He reached the old bridge and looked in every direction. The rain had stopped. The morning sun was shining. Everything looked peaceful. But the old man was nowhere to be seen. Michael searched every corner of the bridge. He looked beneath the trees. He walked along the riverbank. He even checked the nearby bus stop. There was no sign of the mysterious stranger. An elderly fisherman noticed Michael looking around. He asked, "Son, are you searching for someone?" Michael quickly replied, "Yes, an old man wearing a brown coat." The fisherman frowned. "I've been fishing here since before sunrise. I haven't seen anyone." Michael's heart sank. Across the street was a small coffee shop. Michael hurried inside. The smell of fresh coffee filled the room. He approached the waitress. "Excuse me, did an elderly man come in here this morning?" She thought for a moment, then gently shook her head. "No, sir. You were actually the first customer today." Michael couldn't believe it. How could someone simply disappear? As Michael stepped outside, he noticed a convenience store nearby. A security camera pointed directly toward the bridge. Hope returned. He rushed inside. The store owner listened carefully. After hearing the story, he agreed to check the camera footage together. They watched the recording from the previous night. Michael saw himself standing on the bridge. He saw himself talking, pausing, crying, looking down at something in his hand. But there was one shocking detail. The mysterious old man never appeared on the recording. Michael watched the video again and again. Still, he was standing completely alone. A chill ran through Michael's body. His hands began to tremble. He whispered, "That's impossible." The store owner looked confused. "Sir, are you all right?" Michael slowly nodded, but inside, nothing made sense anymore. If the stranger wasn't on the camera, then who had spoken to him? Who had given him the folded note? And how had his heart changed overnight? Instead of being afraid, Michael felt something unexpected. Hope, for the first time in months. He smiled. Maybe, just maybe, God had answered his prayer in a way he never expected. He looked toward the sky and quietly said, "Jesus, if that was your plan, thank you." But Michael still didn't know the whole truth, and what he was about to discover would change his life forever. Cliffhanger. That Sunday morning, for the first time in almost a year, Michael walked back into church. He had no idea that hanging on one of the church walls was a painting that would leave him completely speechless.